4 choices. I can spend it, donate it, save it, or invest it, right? So simply put percentages by each of these, and let's make sure we have a percentage over here for investing. And the bigger the percentage, the more money we can leverage out, right? So here we go. So when we have money to invest, we only have 2 choices. We can lend or we can buy. That's all we have. It's only 2 choices. So we come down, we have 2 positions. We can take passive or active. And there's lending and owning passively, and there's lending and owning actively. So when we lend passively, that's money markets, CDs, bonds, and T-bills. And the reason they pay very little money, kids, is because you're lending them to a bank who's going to re-lend them. So you understand, yeah, they're going to use your money to turn around and do what you did. So they're going to pay you as little as possible, and they're going to make money by turning around and doing exactly what you just did. So you're going to make as little money as possible. The thing, though, is I want you to notice something, is that from left to right, these are the most secure, these are the most insecure. This is the least risky, this is the most risky. So the least risk pays the least amount of money. And as we move across putting our money out there, we have a higher rate of return, but we have a higher chance of maybe not making money, okay? Or we can own passive investments. That would be the stock market, that would be a real estate investment trust, be a mutual fund, right? Notice it says passively, who controls it? Yeah, so you can't affect your money. You can't go there and do anything to affect the return. The second you give your money to this group, kids, you're done. However they do is what you get. Nothing wrong with it, just understand it's passive. You don't know anything about investing. You just give them their money and hope to God they do. Okay? Now you read all the time about Billy Joel losing all his money, about Willie Nelson not having the money to pay his IRS taxes. Why? Because they turned their money over to managers who did what? Lost their money. Happens every day. Happens every day. So you need to realize that passive, it says it doesn't have a risk. Well, that's not exactly true. There is a risk over there. Okay? On the other side, you could be active, but that takes time. And you got 2 things with it. You can lend, which you can do owner financing or private lending. Okay? Meaning I own an asset. Here, I own this water. I'm not going to sell it to you. I'm going to loan the money to you and you buy it from me. So it costs $1. I'm going to sell it to you for $1, but you don't have $1, and I like payments over the 5 years, and I want 20% interest on it, right? So you could literally go into your house and sell everything there on 5 to 10-year notes at probably 7 to 8% interest for people who can't afford it, and you could then have cash flow. I don't necessarily recommend it, but we could immediately turn assets into cash. And instead of selling it, this says sell it with a note. And then I tell the story of my dad, who did do this correctly. This is how I got through college. My dad was a teacher and later started a credit union, became the administrator for a school district. But he bought a piece of real estate in Houston, Texas. And it was 20 acres. It was on the outside of town. It was near a place called Lake Conroe. And my dad bought it, and it was in the middle of nowhere. And ultimately, when the kids got to high school and we wouldn't use it, Dad sold it. He took it on a note. Okay, took it on a owner finance note, right? And what happened was the guy made payments for a year and they defaulted. Well, the real estate in Lake Conroe was rapidly appreciating, so Dad, now the property's worth a lot more. Dad gets it back, takes a hefty down payment again, like he did the first time, sold it on an owner finance note. The guy made 1-year payments and defaulted. Well, again, they're developing Lake Conroe and the Woodlands and all of that out there in Houston, Texas, and now the property's gone through the roof and Dad has it back. He said, I swear to you, I wasn't doing that on purpose. Oddly enough, he said, I just sold it to people who were good guys and thought they deserved a chance, and they gave me huge down payments, which I used as first year for college for kid number 1 and then kid number 2, and the property kept going up so much, but by the time I got it back the last time, I paid for college, all in one piece of real estate, through selling it to people who couldn't afford it. Isn't that funny? So, understanding when there's an opportunity to own or finance is a good thing, right? The one that makes the most amount of money is owning things. And there's only 2 things that you really can. You can own assets, gold and things like that, okay? But at the end of the day, the best assets, the big ones to focus in on, because we can own art, we can own, right? But these are tricky. You can own antique automobiles, right? You can own, name it, right? You collect comic books, I don't care, you're right? Right, you've mastered shoes, the value of shoes. You can own anything over here. The ones that are going to give the greatest returns are going to be owning businesses and owning real estate. And I say that's why your parents are in real estate. Oh, right? Whenever anyone says they want to sell their home, the first thing your parents say is, should I buy that house? Right, we only list what we don't want to buy. That's not true, but it should be true. It's not true, but it should be true. Yep. That's how I bought my first piece of property. I ended up getting a listing, and I put on the appointment and went, well, I'll buy this one. I bought it, right? So that's kind of it. So at the end of the day, we then have a financial return. We take that money, and what do we do with it? Our money made us money. We now have 4 choices. What do we do with it? By the way, what you should do is, it ought to be financial returns come up and go where? They don't go there, do they? Now that money goes where? Right back to there. That's exactly right. Yeah. It's a closed loop. It never gets up here. It just stays right in here and just keep putting it back in, right? What I say is that rich people, financially rich people, never want to see their money. They don't like to visit it. They don't like to take it out for dinner. They don't like to take it to the movies. They don't like to take it to see new cars. They don't like to take it on vacations. Really financially wealthy people, for a period of time in their life, they never want to see their money. It's like seeing relatives. They don't want to see them. They just leave them out there. Right? Well, because every time I see it, the government makes me pay to visitation rights. Every time I see my money, I have to pay a tax on it. I don't want to pay visitation rights, so I never want to see it. Don't show me my money. Right? And then they end up paying capital gains when they ultimately do have to have visitation rights, which is the lowest tax rate for people that are financially wealthy. And they only want to receive income through capital gains, if at all possible, so that they're maximizing their return. Make sense? That's all you need to know. And there's one more.